2 weeks before the US Open tees off at Shinnecock Hills, something happens inside the PGA Tour that nobody saw coming. Not an injury, not a withdrawal. Something that has 11 of the biggest names in the game openly furious, and the people running professional golf with nowhere to hide. A meeting took place, a plan was revealed, and within hours the locker room went from tense to explosive. What exactly was announced? What did these players say? And who are they? And how is it possible that the officials behind these changes are being described as completely powerless to push them through? Those answers are coming, every single one of them. But to understand why this moment is genuinely different from the usual tour politics noise, you need to understand what was already burning underneath before Tuesday ever arrived. I think this is the most serious threat to the tour's structure since LIV. Too strong? Drop your take in the comments. Hit subscribe. This situation is moving fast, and the next breaking point is less than 3 weeks away. The atmosphere around the PGA Tour going into this summer was already uncomfortable. Players had been quietly frustrated for months, not about one single issue, but about a pattern. A feeling that decisions affecting their careers, their schedules, and their livelihoods were being made above them, without them, and increasingly despite them. That frustration had been building behind closed doors, in player advisory council meetings that produced feedback which seemed to disappear into a boardroom and never return, in survey results that made player opposition to certain changes crystal clear and yet moved nothing. Players knew something structural was coming. Rumors had been circling for months about a plan that would fundamentally change how the tour operates. From 2028 onward, nobody had the full picture. Enough fragments had leaked that the ranks were already on edge before Muirfield Village week even began. Then Tuesday arrived. What Rolapp confirmed in that room didn't just add fuel. It explained why 11 players stopped staying quiet. And the first name on that list will not surprise you. Brian Rolapp stood before reporters at Muirfield Village and confirmed it. The plan is real. The direction is set. The implications for every player on tour, from the very top of the world rankings to the man fighting to keep his card, are enormous. Here is what Rolapp also admitted, almost in passing. The details are not yet finalized. The model is still being shaped. The board has not yet approved anything. A formal announcement is scheduled for the meeting before the Travelers Championship on June 25, which means right now, professionally, the tour is sitting in the middle of a decision that has been confirmed enough to cause outrage, but not completed enough to be challenged directly. Players know what is coming. They cannot officially fight something that has not been officially locked. That gap between confirmed and finalized is where the anger is living. Because while the restructured details were spreading through the ranks, a second issue was sitting underneath it. One that had been fought over for months. One that involves not the tour, but the organization running the US Open in 2 weeks. 2 bombshells, 2 separate fights. One locker room absorbing both simultaneously. And what the USGA said next made everything worse. The USGA has been pressing forward with the golf ball rollback. Confirmed for professionals in 2028, players had expressed their position through surveys, through the Player Advisory Council, through direct conversations with tour leadership. The opposition was not a vocal minority. It was near unanimous. None of it changed a single decision. USGA Chief Executive Mike Whan stood up on the eve of the US Open and delivered 2 words that ended any illusion this was still a conversation: full speed ahead. Then he went further, telling the media that players angry about this decision should not be pointing fingers at the governing bodies. They should be pointing at elite pros and manufacturers for refusing bifurcation. In other words, you brought this on yourselves. That statement landed like a grenade because it was not just a policy update, it was a dismissal. It told players that their opposition, documented, organized, and overwhelming, had been noted and ignored. Coming from the same organization hosting the US Open at Shinnecock Hills in 14 days, with those same players in the field, the timing could not have been worse. The players had done everything right. Surveys, council meetings, formal feedback. None of it moved anyone, so they stopped doing things the right way. This is where the 11 names come in. This is where the story stops being about policy and starts being about power. Justin Thomas went first and he was precise. His argument was not emotional. It was a direct challenge to the authority of the governing bodies to make this decision at all. He questioned why amateur organizations should have the power to control equipment used by professionals competing for their careers. That was the line. He said the majority of players he spoke to felt the same way. He said he did not understand why tour leadership was not fighting harder. That last part was not aimed at the USGA. It was aimed inward. Scottie Scheffler's response was more measured, but the warning underneath it was unmistakable. He chose every word carefully. He made clear the rollback was not a settled issue as far as the players were concerned. When the world number one speaks carefully about something, you listen to what he is choosing not to say. Then Jack Nicklaus spoke at his own tournament. From his own stage at Muirfield Village, he looked into the cameras and said he was not exactly in favor of what the tour was doing right now with the schedule. Not off the record, not softened. A direct public statement from the most respected voice the sport has ever produced. Delivered at the moment leadership could least afford it. Thomas precise, Scheffler pointed. Nicklaus public. 3 names, 8 more still to come. But first, why can't the officials simply shut this down? Here is why the word powerless is not an exaggeration. It is structurally accurate. The PGA Tour's policy board must approve any changes to the competitive structure. Players sit on that board. The Player Advisory Council has been formally briefed on the restructure model, and while they hold no direct vote, their feedback determines whether proposals survive or collapse before reaching a final decision. Rolapp confirmed the finished model probably will not be locked until 28, meaning even the CEO is publicly acknowledging he does not control the timeline. Players are not complaining from the outside. They are inside the room. They have real leverage. They know it. Officials driving these changes cannot bypass them, cannot override them, cannot move faster than the board allows. Right now, the tour is heading toward a moment it cannot avoid. The board meeting on June 25th will either produce a workable path forward or confirm that the gap between leadership and players has grown too wide to close quietly. Meanwhile, the US Open sits directly in the middle of all of it. Remember what happened at Oakmont last year. Sam Burns tied at the top of the leaderboard, ball sitting in what appeared to be casual water, relief requested and denied twice by a USGA official. He played from the lie, made double bogey, and fell out of contention. Players and commentators called it a scandal openly. That wound never closed. Those players walk back into a USGA major now carrying that memory, carrying the ball rollback anger, carrying the uncertainty of a restructure that will reshape their careers, with no resolution on any front in sight. The tension going into Shinnecock Hills has nothing to do with rough height or pin positions. It is about whether players trust the people running their sport. Right now, the honest answer is no. 11 names went public. More are watching. The board meeting is 20 days away. Shinnecock Hills is 12 days away. Whatever happens between those 2 dates will define whether the PGA Tour navigates this as a controlled evolution or fractures into something it cannot walk back from. Here is where I land. The tour cannot keep promising structure while delivering control. Something breaks before the end of June. Who blinks first, the players or the officials? Tell me below. If this breakdown made sense of what is happening right now, subscribe. When that boardroom closes on June 25, this either gets resolved or it gets ugly.